Hi all, a very good morning. So in the part of our last class, we had just an introduction with the NoSQL DBs, right? And did we also connect the EC2 instances with the RDS yet? Okay. I had shown the way to launch the RDS database, isn't it? Just the preview, how do we launch it, the 4 steps, selecting the RDS engine and then the type. Okay. So in the part of today's class, we will discuss about how to launch a RDS system and how we are going to get connected to it with the help of our EC2 instance, where our EC2 instance will be a web server and our database will be a part of RDS service. So we are going to see how to we get launched and get started with it. So I am into the RDS section here, and remember I am in the, okay, I'll just go ahead and change the region. I'll just go down to North Virginia. There I am in the North Virginia region, and this is the splash screen that I see when I go down to the RDS section. RDS stands for Relational Database Service, and as we learned in the last part of our class, there are 6 different types of RDS databases which are available in this Amazon AWS cloud. And let me show you what are all of them. So I'll just click on Get Started now first. The moment I say Get Started now, it's going to show me how to launch a new database in here. So the first step is asking me to select an engine. So here I have got 6 different types of databases. couple of them are from Amazon itself, like Amazon Aurora and the MariaDB are products of Amazon. MySQL and PostgreSQL are a part of open source databases, and the Oracle is from the Oracle company, and the SQL Server is from the Microsoft company. So we overall have 6 different databases which are available as a direct database as a service. So I do not have to worry about the installation or the patches and other things in terms of database as a service. So it is already pre-installed on some operating system. So we are not sure whether it's a Windows operating system or whether Linux operating system on which this database is installed. The service is just ready. I just need to get the endpoint, and then I just get connected and start creating my own tables and then play around with these databases. So in our case, we are going to select the MySQL database here, and then I am going to go ahead and click on next. Then it's going to ask me whether I'm going to use it for the production purposes or the development purposes. Now, if you see here, for the production purposes, there are 2 different use cases. They are just trying to promote the Amazon Aurora DB here, because the cost of the Amazon Aurora is 1/10 of the cost of any commercial database that we are going to make a use through. And Aurora database has got very long specialties that we are going to discuss in detail in the upcoming parts. So for now, anyway, we are just going to make use of it for the development or the testing purposes. So I'll go ahead and click on next here. So I'm going to go ahead and launch my database. So the first step is about selecting the engine. Second step is about the use case, whether it is used for development or production purposes. And then we have the third step where I'm going to specify about all the database details. So my engine is about MySQL Community Edition, and it is a general public license. As I said, it's an open source database. So, and the version here, I get option to select which version I would like to go back to. So I'm going with 5.6.37 itself. Of course, as you all know, each version and the patch number will have some limitations or issues. That's the reason there is always a new version that comes into the market. So it does say that there are some known issues or limitations. So you may have to specifically check with the version before you go ahead and select it. For now, we're just going to use it for testing purposes. So I'm okay with the 5.6.37. I'll come down a little more, and here it asks me, would you like to go for the free tier? I'll say yes. So as a part of free tier, I am going to get a T2 micro machine on which my database will be installed, and I would be getting a 20 GB of storage for free for month. So that is something I'll be able to explore as a part of my database services. So I have selected the free tier, so I do get only the option that is T2 micro, 1 virtual core of CPU with 1 GB of RAM. So if I remove this, then you will be able to see a lot of different options which are available depending upon your use case, whether you would like to go for M4 large, M4 10x large, or maybe just T2 micro itself. So for now, we are just going to explore with the smallest size. And the moment I am going to say enable the free tier, you see here the multi-easy option is disabled for us. So multi-easy is basically multiple availability zones. So whenever I'm creating a database, if I select this option as a multiple availability zones, it is going to actually create a copy of database in the another availability zone. So one of the database in the first availability zone will be primary copy, and the second will be standby copy. So if anything happens to the primary copy, or if it is unable to respond, then automatically all the transactions will switch over to the standby database. So multi-easy really helps me in terms of disaster. So we are going to learn about it. Then coming down a little more, we are going to use SSD type of storage, of which 20 GB is available for free for every month. Next, the settings. So let's keep it a very simple database here. I'll just go ahead and keep it as AWS Training 2017. I'll give the username also as AWS Training 2017, password also as AWS Training 2017, and I'll also confirm the password to be AWS Training 2017. So what did we do until here? So we have completed 3 steps. The step 1 was about selecting the engine out of the 6 different engines we have. Step 2 is about choosing the use case. Step 3 is about specifying the database details. So we have picked up as a part of free tier T2 micro, which comes with one virtual core of CPU and 1 GB of RAM with no multi-AZ option, and the storage type is going to be of SSD type with 20 GB. And the database identifier. Identifier is the way in which we will be able to uniquely identify the database instance. So let's say in my AWS console in North Virginia, I have got 10 databases. How do I identify each of them separately? This is using the identifier. And then I'm setting up the username password for this database, and let's go ahead and click on next. Okay, so there it is. The fourth page has been loaded. Now in this we have got little more options. So we are going to discuss about the network and security, database options, and then the encryption, backup, and the monitoring and maintenance. So there are a lot of options in this advanced configuring details page. Let's look out at one after the other. So as a part of network and security, it's going to ask me in which VPC we are going to launch this. So currently we do not have any other, so I'm going to set the default VPC. As such, we are going to learn what is a VPC and how do we launch our own or create our own VPC in our next upcoming lab section after the databases. So I'm going to select the default VPC for now. In the default VPC, we have a default subnet group, which is going to be used publicly accessible. Now, would you like this database to be publicly accessible or not? So I will give it as no, because database is always a place which should not be exposed up to the end people or end users, because it has the place where I would have a lot of information in terms of the transactions, in terms of any other details. So I'll give it as no, and it is going to ask me for the availability zone preference. In this North Virginia, I have got 6 availability zones, and it is asking me in case if I have a preference to launch this in specific availability zones. So for now we do not have any as such. So let it be as a part of any of the availability zone. And then it is asking me whether we would like to create a security group or not. So yes, we would like to create a new security group, so that now, as we all know, whenever we launch either a virtual machine or whether a database or anything else, we need to secure the traffic from where or from whom it is going to be accessed, right? So the security groups are really important to be attached to any of these resources. So as a part of network security, we learned that we are going to launch it in default VPC, which has a default subnet group, and the public accessibility will be no. Availability zone, I'm not giving any specific preference at this point of time. And the VPC security groups, I'm going to say that yes, please go ahead and create a new security group for this database. And then the name of database, I'll just go ahead and say again AWS training 2017. It is going to operate at port number 3306. Sorry. And then it is going to ask me whether I would like to use the IAMDB authentication. So I'm going to keep it as disabled at this point of time. And coming down a little more, there is encryption here. As we are using a very small size of the database, encryption is not available. So if I'm going to use a higher size, maybe like M4 large or M4 10x large, then this option of encryption will be available for me. For a part of free tier, this encryption part is not available. Coming down a little more here, there's something called as backup. Now, backup is really important in any case of the database. So what will happen if something goes wrong? We need to revert it back. So from where would we do it? That is from the help of backups. So in the backup here, I have something called as retention period. So what does this retention period mean? Retention period here simply means that the number of days the backup is going to be available for me. Now, let's say this database has been launched on December 1st and today is December 26th. So if it mentions as a December 7 here, for the backup retention period, which means I'll have the backup for the last 7 days, which is from the 19th of December until yesterday. I'll have all the backups. So I have the backups only for the last 7 days. So if I would wish that I had all the backups of the last 25 days, all I have to do is just go ahead and select here the maximum number, or maybe just the 25 days. So the maximum is you can have it for 35 days as a backup, and the minimum is 0 days. So you can also say that you don't want any backups. And remember, this is automatic backups. We don't have to take care about it. Amazon will automatically do the backing up system for you, and you just need to mention at what point of time you want to go back. So let's say your support team who was working yesterday had created some mistake at evening in the 4 o'clock, and you can actually go back and revert the database to that specific point in time, saying that yes, the error occurred at 4 o'clock, so I would like to go back on my database at exactly 3 hours 59 minutes, something as such. So I'll show you how we do that point in time database backing up. So I hope you guys understood what is backup retention period. It is basically the number of days the Amazon RDS will retain the backups for, right? So just looking back again at the date. So if this database was launched on December 1st, and currently if it is going to be, let's say I'm going to make use of 7 days. Okay, so what does backup mean? Backing up means that I want to store a copy of this database as a backup, so that in case anything goes wrong, I'll just try to fetch the data from the backup and revert it onto the main system. So here it says this everything is basically a automated backup, which means I do not have to interfere in this. Automatically Amazon is going to take a backup for me every day. So it is asking me for how many days I would like the backups to be stored for. So it's a here by default it is 7 days, which means let's say I have launched this database on December 1st and today is December 6th, 26th. So when the backup retention period says 7 days, it means I'll have the database backups available for last 7 days from 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 and 25. So I'll have the backups for the last 7 days available for me from the 19th. So if I would have wished that I had all the backups until today, maybe I could have selected something like this up to 35, so that, or maybe up to 25 itself, so that I have backups of the all last 25 days. So I'm going to make use of the default value, which is 7 days here, so that I'll be having backup of the last 7 days. So anyway, we are going to launch the database today. So it is going to take the backup for the next 7 days. After that, it is going to delete the backup of the every last 1 day. So let's say if I'm talking about the January 2nd, then I'll have the backups from the 26th until 2nd. But if it is of the 4th, then I'll have the backup from the only 28th of the December. I lose the backups of 26th and 27th. So I'll have the backups only for the last 7 days in this case of backup retention period mentioned as 7. Yes, we can store the backups for more than 35 days by taking a manual backup. Since this is an automated backup which is taken by Amazon, so it is providing me a maximum capacity of 35. However, if you want to create your own manual backups, you can create it. Yeah, we are going to learn about it. Let me launch this database first. Let's learn how to connect it from EC2 instance, and then the next part of the step is we are going to learn how to create your own manual backups, how to play around with them. Okay, so for now I'll just keep it as 7 days, and now here it is asking me backup window. Now backup should happen at a specified point of time in a day, like at a midnight of India time, or maybe early morning hours, because if the system is already in use and the Amazon is trying to back it up, then the people will find the latency in accessing the data. So in order to prevent that, it's always better that I mention the window at what point of time the Amazon has to back it up. So maybe in India, the midnight time when the people sleep off, that will be ideal case to go ahead and get this backup done. So I'm just going to give it as midnight 1 o'clock for 1 hour of time. So if you say no preference, whenever Amazon would find time, it would actually go down and try to create a backup for this system. So it's always preferable that you mention the window, because in the production purposes, you cannot have a latency that is being experienced by the end users. So it's always better you just mention out the window preference time. So in here, I'm just going to give it as 1 o'clock UTC, and then maybe let's say 2 hours is the maximum time in which it should complete the packing up. Next, we have monitoring. So basic monitoring is anyway available for every 5 minutes. If I go for enhanced monitoring, it is going to give me the details for every single minute. So for now, I'm just going to disable this, because if I go ahead and enable this, it is also going to put across heavy cost onto your machine, and it will again not be a part of free tier anymore. So the metrics are same, the way we actually get it in the CPU, the way we get it in the EC2 section. So where we have like CPU, disk, and then the network, and then the status checks. Similarly, here we'll be getting something in terms of the read IOPS, write IOPS, and other things, right? So, however, if I enable the enhanced monitoring, it is going to give me for every single minute, and in the normal monitoring, I'm going to get it for every 5 minutes. And then we have finally the mind upgrade. So we just saw when we were trying to launch this database, it showed me the version as 5.6.37. Now, if you remember, usually it will be like this 5.6.37, let's say. So it will be like major version, and then the minor version, and then the patch number. So Amazon is asking me, would you like to enable for the auto minor version upgrade? So if in the market 5.7 comes into picture, would you like the Amazon to upgrade your database from 5.6.37 to 5.7 automatically? If you feel yes, then just click on this enable auto minor version upgrade. If you think no, it will have some complications on your real-time database in the production, then click it as no. Disable the auto minor version upgrade, which means you are going to let Amazon know when it should upgrade or when it should not upgrade it. So here, if you read it, it says enables automatic upgrades to new minor versions as they are released. The automatic upgrades occur during the maintenance window for the DB instance. Again, I have to preferably mention out the maintenance window, because if the version upgrade also happens during the daytime when my system is in use, again it's going to create a problem. So it's always preferable that we mention the window here. So again, I'll just go ahead and put window, but however, we're just going to use it for the normal couple of hours here. So I'll just disable the version upgrade for now, and then quickly go ahead and launch the database instance. Before that, again, let's review what we did in the step number 4. So step number 4, we learned about the network and security part. So which VPC it is going to be launched into, whether it will be publicly accessible or not, and we are going to put it behind a security group which will be newly created here. And in the database options, the name of the database is going to be AWS Train 2017, which is going to operate at port number 3306, and we are not going to enable the IAMDB authentication for now. And the encryption is not available for us because we are using a free tier at this point of time. And in the terms of backup, we are going to have the backup for the last 7 days, and we have mentioned the backup window at which point of time it has to back it up every day. And then the monitoring, I'm just going to use the basic monitoring that is going to be available as a part of database. So if you want to have enhanced monitoring, which is going to give you metrics for every 1 single minute, you can go ahead and enable this. And in terms of maintenance, we are going to disable it for now, and then quickly go ahead and say launch DB instance. So there we go. It is going to take a few minutes to launch the complete database here. So I'll click on the view database instance. Since database is something like a platform as a service, okay, so we are going to get directly the database. It doesn't even tell us what is the kind of operating system on which this MySQL is installed. So it is not going to tell us where the backups are also available. It just creates the backups, and we will be able to see it from this snapshots section. Usually these snapshots are stored in the S3. However, for automated backups, there will be no directly or full access available to us. So we can create our own manual backups for each of these database, and those manual backups will always be available here in this snapshot sections. So we'll just wait for a little while for this database to launch, and then we will be able to see that the backup is actually available in this snapshot section, and it will clearly define which is an automated backup and which is a manual backup. So this is more like a platform as a service. So it is directly giving me a platform of the database. So we do not get many options with this case. But however, there are a lot of things that get easier, that I do not have to worry about the installation of the MySQL database, how it is being managed, on all those things. So everything is managed by Amazon. I just need to straight away get the endpoint, connect to that endpoint, and then start creating the tables, and then store the data and play around with it. Right? So it becomes much easier there. Now, in the meantime, what we will do is I'll just quickly go ahead and connect to a EC2 system. We'll launch one virtual machine. So there we go. We are already into our EC2 section. I'll quickly go ahead and launch an instance. I'll click on launch instance. I'm going to make use of the Amazon Linux AMI here. And then I'm going to select the T2 micro, which has got one virtual core of CPU and 1 GB of RAM, which is a part of our free tier. Before I go ahead to the next step, I'll just click on the AWS resources in my laptop. So we are going to make use of this shell script, which is a part of our bootstrap script, I can say. So let me explain you what we are trying to do in this bootstrap script here. Okay, so here in this specific script, so we are just trying to run all the commands at a root level, that is shebang /bin/bash, which lets me know that I am going to use the below bash script, which is going to be run at the root level on my Linux machine. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install the couple of softwares. Here I am going to install Apache, that is HTTPD. I'm going to install PHP and then PHP MySQL in order to connect the EC2 instance with a MySQL database. And we are going to use the PHP scripts in order to get connected to the MySQL database. And then I'm going to update all the security patches which are required for my EC2 instance, that is using yum update -y. And then I will quickly go ahead and start my Apache service. And I'll always ensure that the Apache service is up and running by using check config httpd on. And then I'm going to change my directory to var www.html. Then I'm going to go ahead and create a small page for the index.php. That is, I'm going to create a home page for the PHP, that is using this specific command here. So this is a very small command that we usually give it in order to create a home page for the PHP. And I'm going to store it at across index.php here. So I'm already inside this var www/html folder. So I can just straight away give index.php. And I'm also going to go ahead and get one more file with the name connect.php from my S3 bucket. So currently I do not have that connect.php in S3 bucket. So let's first go ahead and load it into the S3 bucket. So I'll quickly click on services, go down to the storage. So I'll also show you what is there in the connect.php in a little while. Okay, so I already have one of the bucket with the name AWS Training 2018. And we also have got this file that is connect.php, which is available, which we have uploaded other day, I guess. So this file is already available. That's great. So I'll just go and quickly click on this, and this is the link that we are going to make use of. So I'll quickly go ahead and put it across. So we are going to make use of the wget command in order to get connected to this file. So in order to download this file from this so and so location, and just ensure that this is publicly available. Yes, it is readable by everyone in this world, whoever has got this specific link. So this is the bootstrap script that I'm going to make use of. Let's quickly copy it and put it across in our EC2 machine. I'll leave everything else default here. I'm not going to make any changes. Rest apart, I'm just going to put across into this part of advanced details, a small bootstrap script that we just understood what is going to be done here. So I'm going to execute the below bash script at the root level using this command, that is shebang /bin/bash, and then I'm going to install a couple of packages like httpd, php, and the php mysql, and then I'm going to go ahead and update all the security patches, start the Apache service, and ensure that the Apache service is always up and running. And I'm going to go ahead and create a index.php file in this var www/html directory, and then we are going to download the connect.php file from one of my S3 bucket. Now, why do we give -y here is specifically in order that, let's say HTTPD or PHP is a software that I want to actually install in this Linux machine, but that PHP software actually has got certain dependencies which needs to be installed along with it, or else it is not going to work properly in this machine. So if you also want to install all the dependencies of those software, just give it as -y, so that automatically all the dependencies which are related to that software also gets installed along with the PHP installation. So I'll go ahead and click on add storage. So we are going to select the 8 GB of size with general purpose SSD drive for the root volume, and then I'll go ahead and add the tags. I'll just say name my database lab and click on next, configure security group. So I'm going to go ahead and select this one, select an existing security group. So this is the one that has been currently launched, that is RDS launch wizard 2. I'll go ahead and select this, and then I'm also going to, we are going to select this SSH security group, since this is going to be a web server. So I'm going to select the SSH and the web server security groups. So the port number 22, port number 80, and port number 443 are currently opened up for this EC2 instance. So I'll go ahead and say review and launch, and quickly go ahead and launch this machine using one of the key pair that we already have. So I'm going to select the Virginia key pair here and then click on launch instances. There we go. I'll click on the launch instance. So the instance is going to be launched in a little while. So we'll just have to wait for the IP address to be coming up. Yeah, IP address is already available. So we'll just check out in a little while if the bootstrap script has been currently executed or not. So in the meantime, we'll just check whether RDS is ready or not. So I'll come back to the dashboard, click on the instances. So there we go. I can see that the AWS training database, AWS training 2017 MySQL database engine is now available, and currently it is showing me a couple of parameters like CPU and how many connections are existing. So currently we do not have any connection which is being connected to this database. And if I go to the snapshot section, you will see that one of the database snapshot is already available. And if I scroll down a little ahead, it shows the type of backup it is. So it is a automatic backup. So I have not created any backup yet for this database, and it's clearly showing that this backup which is already existing is a part of automated backup for this system, and it was created on December 26th at 7:47, which is exactly 6 minutes earlier. And then this is the name of the snapshot. So it clearly says that this database is a snapshot of the 26th of December 2017. And yeah, this is again launched in the US East 1B itself. So let's go back to databases. Now, how do we connect to this database? So we basically require an endpoint of this database to get connected with. So I'll click on this database, open it up. So I'll scroll down. So it is going to show me some CloudWatch metrics which are available for this database. So it is going to show me what is the CPU utilization, how many database connections are already existing, what is the amount of storage available, and what is currently free memory which is part of this. And in terms of IOPS, it is going to show me how many write IOPS are basically used at this point of time, how many read IOPS are being used, and this is the endpoint which we actually require in order to get connected to this database. So we require the endpoint and the port number at which it is going to be accessible. And as we already know, this is a security group that is RDS launch wizard -2, which is being automatically created here. So let's go back to our EC2 instance. It should be up and running. Yes. So I'll copy this IP address and just check out if the index.php file is available or not. So there we go. The PHP installation and complete bootstrap script has executed properly, and it is also showing me the PHP home page on the IP address of the machine. So I'm going to go ahead and log in into the machine, and we are going to make some changes so that we will be able to connect to the database. So I'm going to say yes to verify the key fingerprint, and then I'm going to go ahead and log in as EC2-user. There we go. Now what we are going to do is elevate our privileges first. And clear the screen. I'll quickly change my directory to the HTML. So now I am inside the HTML directory. If I say ls, you'll be able to see that there are two files, one with the name index.php and second is with the name connect.php, which was being downloaded from the S3 bucket. Now, how do we get connected to our database? So let's find out what is there in the connect.php file. So here we go. We have the file with the name connect.php opened up. So here, again, I'm going to write a small program in the PHP. So it says the username, password, host name, and the database name. So I have declared four variables. First variable is with the name username, and then the password, and then the host name, and then the name of database. So we need to pass these parameters onto this EC2 instance so that we will be able to easily get connected to the RDS system which we have just launched. So we know that the username in our case is AWS training 2017, and the password is again the same one. And the database name is also again the same, that is AWS 2017. Now let's go ahead and get the host name from the database section. So I'll go back to RDS. This is the endpoint. Endpoint is nothing but the host name. So I'll go ahead and put it here. And then colon 3306 because that is the port number at which this database is going to operate. So we have filled these details. Now let's come down a little more. So I'm going to use one more variable which is called as db handle. And since we have already installed MySQL PHP, sorry, PHP MySQL, so I'm going to use some functions of those PHP MySQL installation. So I have this MySQL underscore connect in which I just need to pass these three parameters, that is host name, username, and the password. And then if it is able to succeed, then it is going to give me this one, this message that is connected to MySQL using the username, password, and the host name. If it is unable to connect, it is going to die and it is going to give me this specific message, that is unable to connect to MySQL. Similarly, I'm going to give one more variable, that is $selected, and in this case what I'm trying to do is I'm going to pass a couple of variables, that is the name of the database and the handle with which we were able to connect earlier. So if it is succeeding again, then it says that it has been connected to the specific database using the handle of username, password, and the host name. If it doesn't, then it is going to say unable to connect to MySQL DB. Right? So let's go ahead and now save this file. So Ctrl X, Y, and then enter. And then if I say ls, you are able to see that the two files are available. Just re-verifying if the connect.php has got all the parameters correctly updated. So I'll say cat and then the name of file. So it is going to show me what all is available. So if you see, we have made one small mistake in the username, so it is actually going to fail. So let's go ahead and make changes. Okay. Now everything appears to be correct. So let's go down and check out to access this connect.php file here. So it's very simple. Just use this URL and then just say connect.php. So it will fail to connect because we have still not created a connection between the databases and the EC2 machines, right? There is a security group for each of these AWS resource that has been created, right? So we created a EC2 machine, we created a RDS, and both of them were able to be part of one of those security groups. Let's check it out. So EC2 is being tagged to a security group which is web server and SSH, and RDS is being tagged to a security group that is RDS launch wizard 2. Now we are going to make a connection between the RDS and EC2 here. So let's make it. So I'll come down to the security groups. So here we go. We have got a RDS launch wizard 2 security group. Now we need to mention what is the traffic that is going to come down to RDS launch wizard 2, that is to my database. From where will the traffic actually come? So I'll go down to the inbound connections because currently it says it is my IP address. It has by default picked up my IP address. So I'm not going to send the traffic from my IP address. That is very wrong. So I'll just go ahead and click on edit here. So I'll just put it as custom, and then I'm going to select SG hyphen. So I'm going to select the web server. So I'm going to actually send all the traffic from my web server towards the database, not from my IP address. So that was a small change that we actually have to do. So I'm going to open up the port number 3306 on the database, and the traffic on this port number is going to come from all the web servers, which is with this security group. So I'll quickly go ahead and say save. We are not going to make any change in the outbound connection. Outbound is basically all traffic, all protocols, all port ranges to entire world. That's fine. We just made a change in the inbound. So what was the change that we made? So we have just ensured the database, which is MySQL in this case, is going to have the port number 3306 opened up, and the traffic is going to come from the web server in order to access the MySQL. Now let's see what happened to this page. So it was giving me a message saying that unable to connect to MySQL because the security groups were not opened up. So now the complete connection is being set up. Let's go and refresh this page. You see, straight away I'm able to get connected to my database. That is, it says connected to MySQL using the username AWS Training 2017, password AWS Training 2017, and that is the host name. And then we are successfully able to get connected to a database. So this is how we can actually establish a connection between the EC2 section and the database, and then we can get started off from here by creating our own table, start storing the data, and then play around with it. So any questions on this part of the section where we launched a database and then we launched the EC2 section and then we established a connection between them? So we actually went ahead and launched database. Let me put it across here. That is a normal way, the way we connect it. So usually in our normal companies as well, we launch the databases, we connect to it using the endpoint and the port number, database user ID and the password. From there, again, we start creating the tables inside it. So once you are able to establish a connection, you can start creating the tables as normal, and then you can start storing the data. That is again the database section completely. So here we just wanted to learn how to spin up a database, how to get connected from our EC2 section. So you can use any of those scripts, whether you want to connect it from a PHP or maybe using a Java or maybe something else. So if it is Java, we are again going to pass the same parameters like the endpoint, username and the password, and then we are going to get connected to a specific table as well. So you can mention the table name and then you will be able to connect to it. Okay, so what all we learned in this case here. So first we went ahead and launched a database. In this there were 4 steps: step 1, step 2, step 3, and the step 4. So what did we do in each of these steps? So in the first step, it did ask me to select a database engine. That was, we selected a MySQL in this case, and then in the second step it did ask me whether I'm going to use it for the development or testing or production purpose. And in the step 3 it asked me for a few more things like the version of the database and whether it's going to be a multi-AZ. And then the username and the password. So I'll just also put the identifier here. So it asked me all these details, and in the step 4 it did ask me about the network and security, in which portion we are going to launch this database as a part, like which VPC and other things. So network, and in terms of security it asked me about which security group it is going to be a part of, and then the database name we actually gave it here. And in terms of encryption, database backups, and then the version upgrades. So all these things were actually set in the step 4. So once the database was launched, we got an endpoint along with the port number, which is basically used in order to get connected. And we also need to update what is the rule of inbound in the security groups. Right, so that was all about the database section. Then what we did, we actually launched our EC2 machine. Inside the EC2 machine, we had a part of Bootstrap script, and we also had a file with the name connect.php, which we downloaded from the S3 bucket. Right, so in this connect.php, we actually passed our parameters like username, password, and the endpoint, and then the DB name. So we passed these 4 parameters, and then we were able to get connected to our database section. Yeah. So is it clear now, all the portion of the database and the web server, how they get connected and how we launch and manage it here? Okay. So the next part here that we are going to learn across is about the backups. Now, let's say the situation has come where someone has done a mistake. I want to recover it back. So how do we do it? Let's say the situation is now like my database is performing well, but is unable to sustain the number of connections that is getting from the end users. How can I improve the performances of my databases? Let's say my database goes down due to some of the other problem. I want to automatically have a standby database in place. So how are we going to manage them? So that is where we are going to learn what is an automated backup, what is a manual backup, how are we going to improve the situations for our database in this section. Now let's go back to the databases again and check out what is currently available. So if I click on the snapshots, currently as I showed you, I just have a one database backup which is available, and it is basically a type of automated backup. Now, if I come to the database section again, let's say I want to create my own backup. So how can we do it? It's very easy. Just click on the database here, click on the instance actions, and then say take snapshot. So this is a manual backup. So now I'm going to take a manual backup of this. So I'll just say MNL as a manual backup, and then AWS training 2017, and then I'll just give the name date of today, 26 December 2017, and then just say take snapshot. So this snapshot which I tried to create now is a manual snapshot. So you will be able to identify it easily from here. Now if you see the type of backup, it says clearly manual. So whatever was available earlier was a automated. So automated backup will be available for every one single day. So as we all saw in the backup retention period, where I mentioned the number of days as 7, which means for last 7 days I'll be having my automated backups, and the manual backups can be created at any point of time whenever the user requires. Now let's learn few more things about the databases section. Okay, so we just learned that there are two different types of backups. One is automated backups and the second is database snapshots or a manual backup. Now what happens with the automated backups? So automated backups actually allow you to recover your database at any point in time with a retention period. Now if you remember, we have configured a parameter called as retention period, where we have mentioned the number of days as 7, and the minimum value that can be for retention period is 0. You can put it across, or you can start with 1, and maximum you can go up to is 35 days. So what happens in the automated backups? It actually takes a full daily snapshot and also will store the transaction logs throughout the day. So that is the beauty of this automated backup. It is actually going to store the transaction logs across the day. So let's say I have executed one query at 8:30, someone else has executed some query at 9 o'clock, someone else has executed some query at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or something as such. It is going to have the transaction log of each and every transaction, right? So someone has executed at 8:30, someone has executed at 9:30, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It has got transaction of what activity was done. So if I have done some update query, if someone has added some new data to the database, so it has got every log of it. So someone tries to delete it, someone tries to update it, someone tries to add it. All the logs are actually available. Now what happens with the help of this log? So whenever I'm going to make a recovery, so AWS will first choose the most recent daily backup and then apply the transaction logs relevant to that day. So let's see how it happens. Now someone has actually committed small mistake, and I would like to go back to specific point here. So what I'll do is I'll click on this automated backup, which is already available with me. I'll go ahead and click on the snapshot actions and then say restore snapshot. So whenever I'm going to go ahead and click on restore DB snapshot, here you will be able to see that it is automatically going to pick up the most recent backup which was already taken at this point of time in the automated backup. So let's check out what was the recent backup taken on automated backups. I'll just click on this cancel. Yeah, so currently it is just showing that it is of 26th of December or 2017, and it was created on so and so time, right? So whenever the reset backup has been happened across with the help of automated backup, it is going to go ahead and put it across behind 8. So when I select on the snapshot actions and say restore, one second. Yeah, currently we have only one automated backup available, that is of 26th of December. So if I have, let's say, backups of the previous dates, 26th, 25th, 24th, and I want to go to that specific date, so I can just select that snapshot, and this is the page that I'm going to get across. So now if you see here, the very first line, it says you are going to create a new DB instance from the source DB at a specified time. So let's say I have selected 25th December, which is one day earlier. So this is going to actually create a new database instance. So what does a new database instance mean? Now here we already have one instance with the name AWS Training 2017. So if I am going to click on the restore DB instance, then it is going to create one more database instance which will have a new endpoint and the new which will have a new endpoint. So I'll have to make changes in my code in order to get connected to the restored database, right? So always remember, if I'm going to make a restoration, then I'm going to actually get a new endpoint. Let's see how it happens. So I have selected that the database needs to be restored, and it is going to be of type MySQL itself, and it is going to be of general public license. Database instance class, it is going to ask me what is the size. So I'll just go back to T2 micro. which is going to have one virtual core of CPU and 1 GB of RAM. And the good thing is you get an option if you would like to go to multi-AZ while you're trying to make a restoration, you can always go for it. So I'm going to keep it as no for now. And the storage type is going to be general purpose SSD. Here it is going to ask me what is a new name, new identifier, right? As I said in the dashboard, if I have got, let's say 10 databases, then I need to have a separate identifier for each of them. In order to identify it uniquely, I need to have a identifier. And the current identifier which we already have for the database instance is AWS Training 2017. So what I can tell it now is AWS Training 2017. So I'll just put it as 26 December backup or 26 December. So I'll be able to understand that the backup was for this database was taken on 26 December, from which it is being restored back. And this is going to be a part of the VPC, which is default one. Publicly accessible, I'll just say no. Availability zone, I do not have any preference for this currently. And then the database options, it is again going to operate at port number 3306. And IAMDB authentication I'm going to disable. And in case if you want to enable the auto miner version upgrade, you can actually go ahead and do it and then click on the restore DB instance. So this is now going to restore my DB. There we go. It has started the restoration of DB. If you see, it has actually created a new endpoint, right? So this is again completely a new database, AWS Training 2017-26 December. So I have restored it to the 26th December. Let's say I had got the backups of previous days like 25, 24, 23, then I could have gone back to some specific point of date from the automated backup. So that is how we can actually restore it from a automated backup. Now, there's one more thing that we just discussed in this slide here. Since it is actually going to store the transaction logs throughout the day, it actually also allows me to do a point in time recovery. Now, what is point in time recovery? So let's say you know that your support team has committed some mistake yesterday at evening 4 o'clock, and you would like to go back to that specific point of time itself. So how do we do it? So it's very simple. Just select your database identifier, that is AWS Training 2017 in our case. Click on the instance actions. 1 second. Yeah. Click on the instance actions and then say restore to point in time. So when I click on this restore to point in time, so it is giving me two options. One is the latest restorable time, that is for 8:15 last. Currently it is 8:20, so the last backup was taken at 8:15. And in case if you want to go to specific time, so I can just click on custom and then say 26 December 2017 itself, and the time would be, let's say, 7:50. So I would like to go back to exactly this point of time, because I know that my support team has actually committed a mistake at 7:55, and I would just like to go back at 5 minutes before to that, that is at 7:50, and rest of the option remains the same as we just did the restoration. So again, it's going to ask me the database engine, and then the license model is going to general public license, T2 micro, multi-AZ as no, storage type is general purpose SSD. Again, it is going to ask me for a new identifier. So again, I'll say it as maybe, let's say, AWS. Yes, if I'm going to restore it back, since it is going to create a new endpoint, it is going to consider it as a two different databases, right? So I'm going to consume more than 20 GB of space. So I'm going to be charged for that. So since it is going to be a different database overall, so it is going to occupy a different set of space and a T2 micro machine extra, right? So it is going to be chargeable. That we can use the S3 calculator to calculate the cost, because it does keep changing here with the time. So in the S3 calculator, we do get a option to go ahead and calculate the charges for each of these services. So usually charges for depends upon the region, and along with the time they keep changing it. So sometimes it becomes cheaper, sometimes it is little more. Let's select an RDS here. So it does ask me in which region you want to launch this database. Currently we are in North Virginia, and it's going to ask you how many you want to have. So I'll say currently, let's say I have 2 of them, and it's going to ask me, yes, it is MySQL engine, and we are going to use T2 micro itself, and we have provisioned storage of. So we have provisioned the storage of 20 GB, and currently we have a couple of backups as well. So let's not consider the backups and just check out what is the database cost. Here it is showing me. So even if it is going to be a standard single availability zone, you see the costing is going to come up to $14.45, right? So if I'm going to use these 2 instances for one complete month, only one can be free, which means actually the costing is $30. However, $15 is remitted as a part of free tier. One instance can be free, but for other instance I have to go ahead and pay the cost of $14.45. Okay, so coming back here, so when we are doing the point in time recovery, the only thing that is going to be extra is this portion of restore time you are seeing here. So here we can just select the custom date, custom time, and it is going to make a restoration to that specific point in time, because it is usually storing all the transaction logs, so it knows what all needs to be reverted back and what all needs to be kept across. So this is actually a good feature. When you know that your support team has actually created some problem, then you want to revert it back, then you can just go ahead and put it across and select the network security portion. Publicly accessible, I'll say it as no. US East 1B as availability zone. Database is going to operate at port 3306. Copy tags no. IMDB authentication disable. And then auto miner version upgrade also no. And here it is giving me one small note. Note that the restore to point in time operation can take several hours to complete, depending on the volume of transaction logs to be applied on a given database backup. So you really need to take care of this point, because if your database is having heavy transactions, then restore to point in time will work, but it will take some time, or maybe up to some several hours to make the changes get applied. So if I click on launch DB instance, again it is going to go back and create a new database instance, as we just did for one of our case here. So it is going to create like this a new endpoint. So if you see now, the backup is actually available. So if I want to connect to backup, all I have to do is go and click on this and pick up the endpoint, and this endpoint I just need to go ahead and update in my EC2 section, so that my web server will now start responding to the new database endpoint which is created, and I can go ahead and straight away delete my existing database which is available. Right, so I can straight away delete my existing database. So when you're trying to delete the database, it is going to ask you whether you would like to create a manual snapshot or no. So because once you delete the database, there is no way you will be able to get the data, because it clearly says we strongly recommend taking a final snapshot before the instance deletion, since after your instance is deleted, automated backups will no longer be available. Now automated backups are actually taken by Amazon for a backing up the data for our goodness. Now if I'm going to delete the database itself, then the automated backups which were taken by Amazon are also going to get deleted. So in case if you're trying to delete the database, it does give you an option if you would like to go ahead and create a final snapshot out of it. So if it is a yes, then just give the name of the snapshot and then just say delete. So it is first going to create a manual snapshot of this database, and then it is going to delete it. If not, since we do not have any data on this, I can just say it as no, and I do acknowledge that I will lose the database instance as well as the automated backups along with it. So I'll just go ahead and say delete here. Remember, all the automated backups will get deleted automatically when the instance is being deleted. So if you see, this is in deleting mode for AWS in 2017. you will be able to see that the automated backup which was available, this is the one. Yeah, so this is the one which got created at 7:47 and which is of type automated. We will see that in some time this is going to be deleted across. Right, so deletion is in progress, so it will take a little while for the deletion to happen. And the new database endpoint which happened just now, that is AWS training 2017 26 December 26 December, right? This is the name of our end endpoint for the newly created from the automated backups. So it has actually created one more backup for itself. So this is the database endpoint which we have. Yeah, so this is the database AWS training 2017-26 December. So the automated backup for this is created again in the snapshot section. So that was all about the automated and the manual backups. So there are two different types of backups we have, as we just discussed. One is automated and the second is manual. So if I talk about the automated backups, it is actually going to take a full daily snapshot and the transaction logs for the complete day will be stored in it. So the beauty of automated backup is I'll be able to go to a specific point in time when I want to restore it back. And with the manual backup, you can go ahead and create a backup at any point of time, and they will be available until you do not delete them manually from your database section. They are going to be available as long as you are going to hold this AWS account. But remember, automated backups will all get deleted once the database is also deleted. Right? So we need to take care about those points. Yeah, and automated backups are enabled by default. All you have to do is just mention the retention period and the automated backups will be automatically enabled. The backup data is actually stored in the S3 and you get a free storage space equal to the size of your database. So if the size of your RDS instance is 10 GB, then you get the 10 GB of storage space in the S3 for free. And the backups are usually taken within a defined window. So you should always define a window for the backup. And in case if you're not going to define a window, it clearly says the storage input output may be suspended while your database is being backed up and you may experience an elevated latency. So if you are not going to define a backup window, at that point of time, the input output operations may be suspended for a little time. And if someone is trying to access the database, it will be elevated latency. We call it as like it may take longer time to establish a connection or make the transactions writing or select we can say select transactions or we can say write transactions to happen on the database. So that will take a longer time when these backups are actually happening. And manual snapshots, we just learned that snapshot is nothing but a manual backup. So whenever you think that you want to have a manual backup of a database, just go ahead and click on the database and say create snapshot, and then it's going to create a manual backup of the complete database. Now there is one advantage that we have with the help of manual backup. Let me show you what is it. One second. Okay, so let's quickly discuss some important features about these snapshots in a little more detail. I'll click on snapshots here. So first we'll check out for the automated backup. So this is the automated backup. Let me check out what all actions are available here. So one is restore snapshot, which is available and which we just also experimented how to restore the snapshot directly from here. And then the second is copy snapshot. So I can copy this snapshot from the North Virginia to some other region. So let's say I want to launch a complete website like Amazon.in from India today, and I would like to launch it in Sri Lanka, let's say tomorrow. One second. Let's say so you want to copy the database from one region to other. So now if Amazon wants to make the presence of itself in some other country as a new, right, so it might want to copy some certain sections of the database directly there, right? So what you can do is straight away you can click on this backup and then say that you want to go ahead and copy this snapshot to some other place, and from there you will be able to actually recreate a new copy of the database. From snapshot you can anyway create a copy. Now there's one other option you see that is called as migrate. So what is this? So if I click on migrate, so I can actually migrate my database to Aurora or MariaDB. As we know that Amazon has got its own databases, that is Aurora and Maria. So it is trying to heavily market its own product, right? And it has ability to automatically migrate the existing MySQL database, which is already available in RDS, or if it is a PostgreSQL as well, you can actually directly migrate it to Aurora or a MariaDB. Remember, this migration is available only for MySQL and the PostgreSQL. You cannot migrate the snapshots of the Oracle or SQL Server to the Aurora and Maria. It's only the MySQL and the PostgreSQL. So you get the option to directly migrate to Aurora, and rest of the options again remain the same. You just need to select the instance class and then the network and security portion, and then the database options on which port it's going to operate at. And would you like to enable the encryption, and would you like to have the auto minor version upgrade or not? And then just click on migrate, and then the new endpoint will be opened up, which will be a Aurora DB now, right? So that is something that we usually get it across with the help of migrate. So the important options that we are having as available for the snapshots is you can restore a copy of your database from the snapshot, you can copy a snapshot from one region to other, and you can also migrate the snapshot to some other database, that is with the automated backup. But you will not be able to share the snapshot with the other people or other AWS accounts. Now if you want to share it, all you have to do is go to the manual backups or the manual snapshot, we call it as, and you'll also not be able to delete the automated backups. It is completely under the control of Amazon. So if I now go to the manual snapshot and click on it, you see I get the options like share snapshot and the delete snapshot as well. So I can actually share this snapshot with the other AWS accounts, like maybe I want to share it with Rahul or Shiva or Divya or Kirti. I'll be able to straight away share this database. And then if I want to delete, I can delete it because it's a backup copy that I have created it, right? And again, you can migrate this manual snapshot. You can copy it to some other region, and you can also restore it back. So that was all about the backups. Any questions or queries here from any one of you for the class of today? How about you, Rahul? Are you able to follow it? we are going to learn about it. We are going to learn about the subnet groups, parameter groups when we are going to do a practical portion of our lab at last. And we are going to discuss it. Yet we have not covered completely the database section. We are still learning it. Tomorrow we are going to learn about how to improve the situation of a database when it is heavily being used. Are there any ways of improving it? What happens in terms of disaster recovery? How do we get through it? So we are still going to explore a few more options in upcoming parts. So it is going to take a little while for each of these sections to learn. So there are a lot of portions that we go through. Okay, then thanks all for the day here, and we'll connect back tomorrow again at the same time to explore the next portion of our RDS section. And then, yeah, I'll just check with the visual part team about the last part of the video, and we'll ask them to upload it. Thanks all. Have a great day.